Hi, so here we are. We're here at Dr. John Diaz, top Beverly Hills plastic surgeon,
Wow. Thank you.
ethnobotanical expert,
Oh, okay.
husband extraordinaire, the super
Wow.
dad.
Wow. Are you? I'm happy this is being recorded. I'm gonna use this.
Yes, and me,
Yes.
Ursula Diaz,
Woo!
the skincare and beauty expert, and
Wife
mom.
extraordinaire.
Thank you.
Mother extraordinaire.
Super mom.
Super mom.
Okay, thanks.
Absolutely.
So today I'm so excited because we're going to talk about a topic that I'm really passionate about.
Yeah. As am I. Yeah.
Yes. And so I call it clean eating and weight training. So the way that I have stayed in shape after having children, before having children, and I discovered it very late in life. I feel like I was almost 30 and I had always been pretty fit playing sports in school. And I think it was after high school when I wasn't so active anymore that it became kind of like a thing. Like I was running. I loved to run, but I didn't want to do weights. I thought it was going to make me so big and bulky. But as I got older and into my 20s, I never felt very fit. And it was always like this struggle with the last 10 pounds. And I was constantly like losing 5 pounds, gaining 5 pounds, gaining 10 pounds. And when we got engaged, I was just not happy with where I was. And so
I was, but yeah.
Thank you. So I wanted to get in great shape for the wedding. And a friend of yours, we ran into a friend of yours who is a plastic surgeon,
Sure.
sort of, and does a lot of cosmetic procedures. That's
Yes,
right.
yeah.
He's not officially a plastic surgeon, but like very specialized
Yes. Yes.
cosmetic procedures. So
Yeah.
he's not, they're related to his field.
Yes.
Who we love.
Yeah.
And his wife was like, oh my gosh, I'm turning 40 and I'm doing a bikini contest or something. And I'm like, oh, wow, good for you. And she's like, do you want to see my before and afters? And I was like, okay. So she showed me. And I mean, she was not fit. I mean, she didn't look bad, but she didn't look good. And then her after, she looked incredible. And I just couldn't believe the transformation. I could not believe it. So she told me about this trainer and she said she was weight training and eating clean. And I was like, you have to give me this girl's number. And she changed my life. I went and met with her. Her name's Michelle. And she doesn't do these programs anymore, but she did back then. And basically she evaluated what I ate and then put me on this program of like eating really clean and lifting weights. And it completely changed my life. Like I lost 20 pounds. And I got a bunch of muscle definition and I've been eating that way ever since. And it's been like 14 years and I've had 2 kids and I've been able to get the weight off right away. And I don't waste so much mental energy. And I think it's more of like a woman thing where it's like very emotional, like eating can be very emotional. And then also, like thinking about like, oh, like the 5 pounds or working out, like there was just so much mental space that it was taking up. So I just couldn't be happier that I discovered this and I try to tell as many people as I can. And I think there's still a lot of women out there. I mean, men and women, I'm sure, but a lot of women who are like, oh no, I can't do weight training. I can't do weights. I can't do heavy weights. It's going to make me bulky. And I promise you that it won't. It's incredible.
Yeah. No, I love that you're sharing this because it's such an important topic. And I know what an impact it had on your life to apply these principles that you've learned. And I think so many women are very confused by this. It's a topic that I also am fascinated about, that I'm passionate about because of what I do.
Yeah.
Because every day, a vast majority of patients that see me for these reasons. They're unhappy about the appearance of their body, or they want to do body contouring. And so I feel like I've gained some special insight into this because of what I do. But also, I had an interest into this even in college. And so I learned a lot about the science behind this. So if you would indulge me, I can be a nerd and like kind of get into some of the scientific things about it.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So, I think there's so much misunderstanding about like why people gain weight and how people lose weight. And, we know this today. I mean, you just have to look at magazines or social media. Everyone has a different recommendation. Like, you should do this diet, you should do that diet.
Oh my gosh, it's overwhelming. Even like TikTok and Instagram and Facebook, I mean, it's so sad because it's like if you eat cinnamon or if you do like the oil, or I don't know, you ingest some coconut oil, because everybody, I mean, it is hard, right? And it does take a lot of discipline and consistency. Right. So I think most people are looking for that easy way out. Like, I just eat coconut oil and a teaspoon of coconut oil a day, and I'm going to lose 50 pounds or something. But
yeah. And I was sharing with you earlier that, I've been doing plastic surgery in private practice for 20 years, right? And seeing patients all day. And I hear probably the same three things over and over and over and over again. And it's universal. So the patients who come in who want to lose weight or want to have surgery, they'll tell me they've tried X diet, Y diet, this diet, that diet, the fat diet. They'll mention all these things we've all heard about. None of them have worked, and they're frustrated, and that's why they're coming to get a procedure. Mm-hmm. The other patients maybe come in because they've lost weight, and then it's always one of two ways. Well, now three, and we'll talk about that too. But first, and maybe 10 years ago it was more common, they would lose the weight through surgery. So a dramatic, surgical intervention, like gastric bypass or gastric stapling, whatever. But the other way was always, people would say, I just improved my diet and exercise regimen.
But that right there, like, I thought I was eating really healthy. And I remember the trainer was like, okay, I need you to write down what you eat for 3 days. And I'm like, oh, I eat super healthy. And she's like, awesome, just write it down. And I had such a weird thing about writing down what I ate. I don't know why. Like, I didn't want to. Like, I already told you, like, I eat great. So finally I wrote it down. And there were various things that I was doing wrong, but I thought, or that I could improve upon. But I thought I was doing so well. So I think that not everybody knows how to change their diet the right way. Because you get, like you were saying, so many conflicting opinions and advice from people that look very, professional or very educated, and they're not. Like, it's random on TikTok.
So I hope today I can drop some knowledge on this, because I think
it's confusing, even for me. And then now that I do it and I know how to do it, I'm like, oh, it's like the easiest thing in the world. And we have different philosophies.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, here's what
overall, I mean, I guess it's the same.
Yeah. Yeah. I always say, Ursula and I, we have the same overall philosophy, but my philosophy is like, if you think of it like a video game level, I'm such a guy, right? I'm like level 1, and Ursula's like level 10, right?
I mean, I don't think I'm level 10, maybe level 3 or something. But.
Right. So the point is, the interesting thing is you're actually applying the principles that I believe in. You're just applying them at an advanced level.
Okay.
So which is great. But if you were to break down the things that you do and really break it down into its components, it's really what I'm saying. It's just that you're doing it at an advanced level, which is great. But what I have found with patients is it's so hard to just get to level 1 at all. It's so hard. So I hope that some of the things I share today will help people, because if you can just get to level 1, that alone is amazing. And then you can work your way up to the other levels, like what you're doing, or even more, But you need to start with the basics. So if I start boring you and you start...
Well, just remember, everybody has like a 2-second attention span. So
all right. But here's
distill it.
Right. So here's what I think is so important. And now, of course, as a doctor and, biology major, this is what I find fascinating. Mm-hmm. So I think what confuses people is you have to think of food as energy. Mm-hmm. That's really what it is. And how do we measure it? It's through this thing called a calorie. Mm-hmm. A calorie is just how much energy it takes to burn a certain amount of food. That's what a calorie is. So energy, you can just change it into different forms. You can't just make it out of nothing or make it disappear. Mm-hmm. So when you eat food, it's in a solid form. You eat it, your body transforms it into its components, protein, carbohydrates, or fat. Mm-hmm. And then your body uses that in different ways. It maybe builds muscle, it stores fat, or uses it for energy. What you want is, at the end of the day, what you put in to go out, right? So that you're not gaining or losing. But the problem with a diet, an analogy that I've used, is that eating is like having a credit card. Okay. It's much, much easier to use the credit card and acquire debt than it is to pay it off. It's so easy to accumulate.
I think that's a good analogy.
Yeah, because it's so, who wouldn't agree that it's so much better to eat a pizza than to eat a salad sometimes, right?
Yeah, of course. I wish I could eat pizza every day for every day.
I would love to have ice cream every night, or there are these things that they do taste better sometimes, right?
Yeah.
But then we'll get into taste, because taste can be transformed. It's an acquired thing. Sometimes you can transform the way you taste things and your perception of taste. So once you start thinking about that, like, it's a matter of trying to reduce how many calories are staying in your body and how much more you're going to burn out. So there's two ways to do it. You either decrease the amount of calories you bring in, or you increase how much you burn out. That's really the basics of everything.
So how active you are.
Right. So that's why
how many calories you burn.
And exercise, diet and exercise are so linked. Because you can have an incredible diet, and that's probably going to help you. But if you add exercise to it, it's going to be so much better.
Yeah.
Or you can, like you said this earlier, we were talking about this on the way here. You can exercise all you want, but if your diet's terrible, you're still probably not going to lose weight, because you're going to keep coming.
But you might not look as good as you would, or it'll still be really hard. Because I've done that.
Right.
I think I had all the right workout in place, but I was eating terribly.
Yeah.
But I thought I was eating healthy.
Right, exactly. And then, there are other components to this which we know. That's, I think, and I say this because I've heard patients say this. I think they're overemphasized. So I have a lot of patients who will say, I have such a hard time losing weight. It's my hormones. I've just always been this way. It's genetics, my parents, blah, blah. Yeah. And hormones do play a role. There's no question. So as you get older and as you go through menopause and things like that, and there are some hormonal imbalances that some people have. But for the most part, it's
like PCOS, which I have, but I don't have the weight loss or the weight problem. But there's plenty of women out there that are really overweight, but they have PCOS.
Right. And then there are a few, there's a very small percentage of people who have a true hormonal imbalance, and they have a difficult time losing weight. So that's a component. There's also the metabolic rate. So, how much energy your body just naturally burns, at its resting rate. So even if you're sitting, people have different basal means, just like baseline. Some people, they burn calories a little bit easier than others. That's true. But again, these are small, they play small roles.
And this can also be manipulated with muscle gains.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. Right. So to the fantastic point, because, and this goes back to one of the things I know you're going to talk about, which is when you add muscle is a very active tissue. It's constantly burning calories because it's a very calorie and energy dependent tissue. So if you have a lot of muscle, even if you're doing nothing, you're burning more calories every minute than someone who doesn't have as much muscle.
Amazing.
Right?
I love
Amazing,
that.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's like the basics, right? So I struggled with weight when I was younger.
So you say. I mean, I've never seen.
All right, the proof is. The proof is, this because my family has told you.
That's true too.
My nickname when I was a kid was Bola de Yuca.
Yes.
Which means a fried yuca ball. Basically, I was a fried potato ball.
A really cute one.
Right. So I wouldn't say that I was like super, super fat, but I was chunky. I was a chunky kid. And when I entered college and decided to go on this path of becoming a doctor, I really took it seriously, and I wanted to improve my health. And so I started really trying to learn the things that I was learning about the body and apply it. And so this is what I applied, and this is what I do to this day. And I'm not going to say, and I'm not going to pretend that I'm in the best shape. But for someone that I love to exercise, but I literally have an incredibly difficult time to schedule exercise in my life. Hopefully one day I can add it back on more than I do now. But the fact that I can't exercise as much as I can, and I still maintain more or less a similar weight. I still fit into similar clothes.
Oh my gosh, I don't even know how you do it. I mean, you're so disciplined with the way you eat.
Right.
You eat very well.
But it's all based on a simple principle that I follow. And so what I discovered back then, and it was kind of mind-blowing to me, is that all food, everything you eat, everything can be broken down into 3 components. That's it. Everything we consume is broken down into 3 simple components. It's either a protein, a carbohydrate, or a fat. That's it. So everything you eat is broken down to the body into those 3 things. Whatever it is, that's what it turns into. So here was this was the thing that was like an epiphany to me. So fat contains 9 calories per gram.
Okay.
So that means if you eat a certain amount of food, if it's mostly fat, you're going to get 9 calories for every amount of that food you eat. So, okay. Protein and carbohydrates are 4. So less than half. So that means if you eat 2 things, one is made of protein or carbohydrate, and the other thing is fat, If you eat the same amount, you're going to eat more than twice as many calories because it's fat. So going back to what I was saying earlier, how much you put into your body. So the more fat you have, the more that your food contains fat, the faster you're going to accumulate calories, which will turn into fat storage and fat in excess. So it's like this equation. You're going to it's like the credit card. When you're eating fatty foods or foods that are high in fat, it's like you're swiping the credit card. You just keep buying and buying and buying, and you're going to accumulate debt, or in this case, fat, really fast.
Yeah.
So what I started doing was just, I thought to myself, okay, well, if there are 3 components, then what if I just change my diet so that a third of what I eat is fat, a third of what I eat is protein, and a third of what I eat is carbohydrates? Sounds pretty logical to me.
Yeah.
So what I discovered is that it's really difficult to lower your fat percentage to a third of what you eat, because so many of the foods we eat in the Western diet are super high in fat. And it's because fat tastes good. Fat makes food taste good. So everything we eat now, like if you go to a restaurant, you go to a fast food, especially a fast food restaurant, or you go to the store and you want to buy a snack, almost every manufacturer of food adds fat.
And that's why you should eat whole foods and clean foods that aren't being overly processed.
That's exactly right. So this is like, again, if you start with the basics of just like starting to look at your food and say, okay, how much of this food is fat? How much is protein? How much is carbohydrate? And you start kind of just cutting down the fat. If there's simple ways to do it, looking at the food packages. But you're right. Then the next level, this is what I'm saying about levels, the next level toward that is then really going organic and going clean.
But you don't have to go organic necessarily. But like just now listening to what you said makes perfect sense. Right. But I think there might be some people out there that are like, math, fractions, and like completely tune that out.
Right.
So what would be another way to say that? Like if you could give an example of like what a diet would look like throughout the day, or like what to cut out first. Like
Great
how
example.
do you simplify that without numbers?
All right. So when I was in college and being from New York City, anyone from New York City is going to instantly get what I'm about to say. Well, the biggest breakfast that a lot of people in New York City get when they're on their way to the subway or out of it is a bagel with cream cheese.
Okay.
I mean, it's like I remember every corner had a bagel and cream cheese stand.
Okay.
So I would get a bagel and cream cheese and a coffee, right? Doesn't seem bad. Everyone else is having it. All right. But if you look at what cream cheese is, it's pure fat.
And that's why it tastes so good.
And that's why it tastes so good, right? Yeah. Who likes a bagel plain, right?
Well, I do, but...
yeah, exactly, right? Because you've changed your taste, right? Okay, so I loved it, bagel and cream cheese. Had it every morning. So I got to college and every morning, bagel and cream cheese, right? But when I looked into how many calories that cream cheese had, I couldn't believe it. It was a huge percentage of calories. Mm-hmm. So right there, my morning breakfast, I already swiped that credit card of fat like so many times because it was so heavy in fat.
Okay.
Now, a bagel has a lot of carbohydrates, and that can also have calories. Mm-hmm. So I said, let me make one change. Let me make one change today because it's hard to make changes. So I said, I'm not going to change too much yet because that's the other thing. You have to make small changes. I said, let me just cut out the cream cheese. I'm going to have a bagel with no cream cheese. That's it. Everything else I'm going to do the same. I swear in 1 month I've lost weight. That one thing.
Wow.
That one thing.
But now, when you buy a bagel, right, with cream cheese from Noah's Bagels or wherever you bought it, yes. I mean, they put an insane amount of cream cheese. So if you really need your cream cheese, you could put a little bit.
Exactly. Yeah, that's right. But it's little changes, right? Yeah. So I'd made that change. The other change that...
Well, if you're having it every day, I mean, was it 7 days a week or was it 5 days a week?
Well, I probably had even worse the other days, but at least most of the mornings because it's quick and easy.
And how much cream cheese do you think that was?
It was a lot.
Like a half a cup?
Well, I don't remember.
Or a fourth of a cup?
But it was enough that you could see it. You could see, the bagel. It was like a thick layer.
I mean, if you were to add that up, that's a ton of fat and calories.
It's a ton of fat, right?
Okay, so that makes sense after a month for you to lose weight.
Yeah,
okay.
I lost. I didn't lose 10 pounds, but I lost. I probably lost like 2 or 3 pounds. Just that. That was it. So that empowered me. See, this is the thing. And I love this because it applies to so many things in life. You make one little change, and then it empowers you to make another change, and then another, and another, and then next thing you know, after a couple of months, I was like, I never want cream cheese anymore. because it just wasn't where I lost the taste for it. Now, I like it,
Yeah.
and every once in a while I'll have it, but I don't crave it like I used to, when I was in college, when I first started and living in New York City. So the next change I made was sandwiches for lunch. So I was like, okay, I tackled a big problem for breakfast.
Okay.
So busy college student running between classes, sandwiches are easy. Sandwiches are an easy thing to grab and go, whatever.
Yeah.
So I was looking at the ingredients of a sandwich and cheese. Cheese is basically pure fat.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm like, okay, I was having a ham and cheese sandwich and mayo, ham, cheese, and mayo. Delicious, right? Or
Since I've known you, I'm like, gosh, this guy eats like the most plain sandwiches ever. And you don't even put anything on it. Never.
Right.
So now that you just don't like that anymore.
Right. So I was like, okay, I tackled the breakfast issue. Okay,
Yeah.
let me try to tackle lunch. So I was like, okay, let me look at this sandwich. So I'm like sitting there and I'm looking at the ingredients. And then I realized, holy smokes, mayonnaise is pure fat. Cheese is pure fat. Right there in that sandwich, that was a ton of calories. Again, using the credit card analogy, I was swiping the credit card of fat. Boom, 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 boom. Accumulating all this fat with that one meal. So I said, okay, let me leave the cheese and the mayonnaise out of it. Now, at first, it tasted so dry, and I was like, oh, this sucks. This is boring. But after a while...
What about mustard? Mustard's great.
Yeah, mustard's fine. Exactly. Mustard is a little fat. Right. So you can... Exactly. So then you figure out ways to substitute.
I almost
flavor.
feel like it's easier to substitute sometimes than to just cut something out.
Right. So anyway, I did that, and then I lost more weight. So that started me on this journey of like, let me just inform myself. What are the things in food that are really adding up the fat?
Yeah.
And then, the truth of the matter is, like, if you really think about it, if you have a sandwich and the cheese, like, yeah, the cheese tastes good, but when you take it out, it doesn't change it that much.
No, you can't really taste it that much.
Exactly. The meat overpowers it. If you have turkey or ham or whatever, or roast beef, it overpowers it. So that's what I mean. I mean, this is like simple things, right? It was a simple change over time. And then, of course, now, I can continue going on, but I don't want to bore everyone. But that's the idea. The idea is
making
just
a small change.
reducing the amount of fat that you accumulate in the day and just trying to keep it to below a third. And like I said, it's actually, if you start looking at labels, it's amazing how much fat food has. Mm-hmm. And it's because of the Western diet,
Yeah.
So,
and I think what you're describing is like an incredible first step for someone who feels like I can't do it. I'm stuck, right? Like there's nowhere for me to start. Right here is a place to start, right?
Right.
But then if you have someone who's kind of in shape already and like they just want to make some tweaks because they want to lose 10 pounds.
Right.
Or they want to lose 5 pounds. Or they want to lose 20 pounds. I lost 20 pounds.
I think that's where you were. Because when I met you, looked great. I mean, Ursula was saying you looked phenomenal. You always look phenomenal.
Well, I think I had gained weight, which is very nice. So thank you for the compliments. But like, I think during that time, it was probably almost a year into our relationship, and I had gained weight. I didn't like my job. I was working really hard. You and I, we would get up so early, and I was running a lot. Yeah. I didn't do any resistance training, and so it was hard for me because if I got sick or if I didn't get to run or something, the weight would come right back. Plus, I was eating questionable things. Not terrible, but like. I had too much sugar in my diet. I didn't have enough protein in my diet. So things like that.
You like those lattes.
My gosh, I know. Like so much milk, and milk is like not non-fat milk. It's all sugar.
Yeah.
And like you always say, sugar is sugar is sugar. So whether it's M&Ms, a banana, or a cup of milk, granted, the banana and the milk have vitamins and minerals and other things that M&Ms do not have. But still, the amount of sugar.
Yeah.
So I think if you're kind of where you need to be, for me, this whole idea of eating clean, I never heard of it. And I felt like, I eat healthy, but eating lean protein, right? So eating lean protein, eating whole grains, and then fruits and vegetables.
Yeah.
So to me, I thought that was so easy. Yeah. And so like for breakfast, I have egg whites and oatmeal almost every day. I could put some fruit in the oatmeal, but I'm tired and I'm busy. And so usually it's just out of sheer laziness that it's super plain. But you can make it taste great. You could do sprinkle of granola. You could do cinnamon. You could do fruit.
And what's funny is, I remember when you were making these changes and that's what you love to eat. Like sometimes, like even this, like we have 2 daughters. They love making pancakes and waffles in the morning. And, I'll make
But I never ate that.
No.
Like, I never ate that stuff anyways.
Right.
Yeah.
But you're like, so like now, like as a parent, and I'm sure any parent listening to this is going to relate. Like when you're making your kid a good looking, like delicious looking food, you're like, oh, I want to have a bite, right? So I'm making the waffles and stuff, and I'm like having a bite of waffle.
Yeah.
But you don't even like, you're like, you can see it and leave it. Like you're fine.
I've never liked pancakes.
Yeah. Okay.
Really ever. So that was not a struggle for me.
All this time that I was like admiring this discipline you have, it was just like, you just never liked it.
I think I had really healthy taste in my life, but no, I don't like pancakes unless they're like very light, and then I put them in the refrigerator, and I like to eat them plain. I don't like syrup.
Okay.
But I do like waffles. But I will say, like, I know what I need to eat now to make my body feel good, and then inevitably I'm happy with it, and I feel strong. But I can't even really remember what I was eating, because I think I was eating that when I still wasn't able to lose the weight. I was eating egg whites and oatmeal, I think. But I wasn't eating every 2 hours. Like for me, I ate every 2 hours. And I was having a ton of milk, which is it's sugar laden. So I was having like a ton of milk and coffee, and I cut that out because that was a lot of sugar and fat. Then I was eating these like protein bars, 2 protein bars a day, because I worked really long hours. And then I would get so tired between 2 and 3, and I would get a coffee, and I thought, I'll get a protein bar. Everyone else is getting frozen yogurt, and I'll do the protein bar. But it had like sugar alcohols. I mean, it wasn't great. And it had a lot of like, not natural, like ingredients that weren't natural, right? And then I think I was eating a lot of carbohydrates, maybe more than I needed, and I wasn't staying full as long. So by increasing, taking down the sugar and increasing the protein, it was huge for me. And then I was eating things that I still really liked, but I was eating it in a different way. So, and I was making sure to keep myself full. So now it's like clockwork. I eat my egg whites, my oatmeal when I first get up, and I have a latte usually, one, maybe 2. Tons of water. And then my second thing is like Greek yogurt and a teaspoon of peanut butter, which I love and keeps me super full.
Right.
And then for lunch, I'll have, lean protein. So chicken, ground turkey, vegetables. I'll have Brussels sprouts or broccoli or green beans or peas, and then brown rice.
Yeah.
And for me, if I have like that protein ready to go and then a frozen brown rice with nothing in it, it just has to be easy. Because if I don't have it with me, I'll eat something gross.
Okay.
And then again, a snack, whether that's apple slices and almonds or celery and peanut butter, fruit, something, hard-boiled egg. And then dinner time, 2 hours after that.
Yeah.
But I will say, like, I used to eat fistfuls of like chocolate like right before bed, and I really craved it.
What was that package that you love to watch, eat with movies? It was
what package?
The double feature or something like that.
It was like so much chocolate and like lots of sugar. Trail mix.
Oh, it was a trail
mix. It was like lots of candy disguised as a trail mix. But now it's so easy. And I remember writing out this plan for a friend who saw me at the gym, and she was like, oh, I wish I could look like you. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Of course you can look like me. I mean, you can look like you, like your fit version of yourself. And it's not like I'm perfect, but like I feel good. Like I feel good in a swimsuit. I feel good in my clothes.
The reason I was shaking my head is because you just hit some super important points that have really good medical science behind it. So one thing you mentioned was how you weren't eating. You said you weren't eating every 2 hours, which you do now. You snack throughout the day. The converse of that is very important. The fact that you don't starve yourself, that's so important.
No.
I have so many patients who will tell me like, oh, I was on this diet, like the fasting diet, and I didn't eat.
Can't do that. And I feel like the intermittent fasting, like I think there are studies behind that, right? And that it works for some people, and
but
people
the problem
really like
is
it.
the problem with a lot of these things is
I like to eat. I would never do that diet.
It's not sustainable. This is the thing. So
but are you supposed to do that over a long period of time, or no? Is that supposed to like jumpstart your metabolism?
That's what they claim, is that it kind of does a jumpstart. But
so you wouldn't do that forever, or you do?
Well, I don't know. I think people want to try to do it forever, but it's really hard. That's the other thing about diets or eating. You have to create healthy habits that are sustainable. And so one of the things that I admire that you do is you eat when you're hungry. You don't starve.
No, but I eat at the same time. Like you said, snacking all day. I do not snack all day.
No.
Like I eat at 2 hour intervals.
Right.
But I like my body craves it. Like I need it, and I do that for our girls too.
Yeah,
if like I start to get spacey, I'm in a bad mood. I get snappy. I'm hungry.
Right,
so if I keep eating, but definitely not snacking all day.
Sorry,
like
I misspoke.
I do 3 meals and 2 snacks.
I better be careful what I say. But
One of people that think if you snack all day, then you're gonna be great.
No, but my point is what's the lesson that is so important to understand that I see people, the trap people fall into is they try to starve themselves. And that's not good. It's not healthy.
It doesn't work.
When you need to eat, you feel hungry, it's good to eat. You just have to make good choices about what you eat. So that's a really, really important thing. I hear so many patients tell me, like, I was starving myself, I didn't eat that. And that's like, of course that's going to fail. That's not sustainable. It's not, and plus it's not healthy. The other thing about that I think you do really well is, and we can talk about this too, is like every once in a while, it is okay to have a cheat day or a cheat meal, because, food is pleasurable. There is a pleasure in food and having food. And so every once in a while, it is okay to have something that you enjoy and that you like. And then that keeps, because then you can't deprive yourself either.
Yeah, because that doesn't work. For me, what works really well is like the 80-20. So during the week, I try to eat really clean. And then on the weekend, I kind of do what I want. Yeah. But like, you can't go crazy, because then you're just derailed all your good work. That's right. But like, I definitely like have dessert, glass of wine, pizza. I mean, I love pizza. I would never not have pizza. I love pizza. This girl
loves pizza.
How could I live without pizza? And I would love to eat pizza 3 times a day.
100%.
But I'd be obese.
Exactly.
But I probably wouldn't feel good either. But what I love about putting great foods into your body is its energy, like you said.
Yeah.
Like feeling good, looking good, feeling strong. Yeah. And so, I think what's tough for most people is they want instant gratification now more than ever, like with Amazon and social media. Yeah. Like, you want it now. So like cutting out cream cheese, like I don't know if that would work for people anymore. Yeah. And depending like how old you are and what generation you're in, like, and it does come down to discipline. Yeah. And I remember someone telling me like, oh, I'm going to pray for the discipline to do this. And I'm like, what? Like, it's really easy. But then I remembered when I first started, it was not easy for me. It's not. Even making these smaller changes and like eating every 2 hours and, not being able to eat like anything and everything I wanted. But now I'm in a place where like, this is what I want to eat. That's right. And it's just second nature.
And that's what's great about these changes, because you can do them gradually. In fact, gradual changes are much better than drastic changes. So for example, using this example of cream cheese, like let's say someone really loves it. Okay, maybe cut it down, and use less and use less. So that works way better. That's the other thing that I've learned from patients over the last 20 years. So many of the patients that lost the weight, when I have patients who come in because they want surgery, because they want to recontour their body because they lost a lot of weight, when they tell me they lost it through diet and exercise, I always ask them, how long did it take you? It's never 1 month. It's never 2 months. Oh, no. They'll tell me a year.
Well, I lost 20 pounds over a year. It took me a year. That's right. And I was really, I was so happy when I was losing weight, but it was like 5 pounds here, 4 pounds here, 8 pounds here, 2 pounds there. It took me a year.
That's right. But to your point, so many people today are like, they want it fast. They want it fast. Like, I want to lose weight for my trip next month. Yeah. And okay, if you really want to do that, there's going to be ways you can try to do that fasting, blah, blah. But it's not sustainable. As soon as you come back from your trip, you're going to gain it right back. Yeah. And so that's a great message to share, is that it has to be gradual, because gradual builds a habit that then is sustainable. If you do things drastically, you can't sustain those changes.
Which brings us to a really interesting topic. So many people that we know, so many patients that you see every day are taking something like Ozempic, right? And it's been such a godsend for people because it is hard, right? It's discipline, it's consistency. And people that have struggled with weight maybe their whole life or the last 20 years or last 10 years, they're finally looking like they want to look, and maybe their health has improved. But if you don't have those habits, right, then it's not something that can be sustained without it. And then when you were saying drastic changes, so those kinds of changes have negative effects on the skin and the body, right? So is that what you're seeing in your practice?
Oh, yeah, definitely. So I would say about, I would estimate that maybe half of the patients I'm seeing today are on some type of semaglutide, like Ozempic or Mounjaro or Wegovy. So that's a tremendous percentage. That's huge.
I'm surprised it's not more than that.
Yeah, no, I mean, but there's no other medication where I see 50% of patients taking it. Nothing else.
Wow.
There's nothing that matches.
So do you think this is like a bubble, or is it something that it's just normal and everyone's going to take it, and obesity is not going to be a thing? Well,
I just think that the reaction I see from the patients who take it, they just love it so much because it's helped them overcome this challenge that they couldn't overcome otherwise. So it's a powerful medication. I mean, think about it. These are people, to your point, like I have patients who are 40, 50 years old. They're like, I struggled with my weight my entire life. I've never been less than this weight. I took Ozempic and now I'm at my ideal weight. it's crazy.
That's
right?
pretty cool.
It's amazing.
I mean, especially if you're because there is a safer way to do it, right? Like from a doctor and monitoring your health and making sure you're eating well, and also building muscle, right? Because that becomes an issue with these types of medications.
Right. So this is the problem that I see. It's been out long enough that I have patients who've been on it for 2 years, 3 years now, right? And so I have some of those patients returning. They've had procedures, they're returning, and they've gained the weight back. And the problem was that they took the medication. It's an expensive medication. It's not easy. There's an expense to it. And then many of them are like, you know what, I can't keep spending this much money a month on this medication. So they stop it and they gain it right back. And so I'm seeing that.
Have you seen patients that have taken something like Ozempic, they lose all the weight, they've changed their habits, and they're able to maintain it? Because that's kind of amazing. I had a friend who used it, and he said, you know, I've always struggled with my weight. I've done various things, surgeries, diets, whatnot. And I took this and I stopped drinking. Like, I guess it makes you not want to drink.
That's true.
And he's like, you know, I love to go out, and drinking is such a big part of my social life. So I was like always drinking, but then I couldn't. And I kind of lost a taste for it. And I can't really drink anymore. And I think he lost 30 pounds. And he was like, I was so happy. So I barely drink. And, you know, I work out consistently. And I think he said he cleaned up his diet, like he doesn't eat out as much or something. And he stopped taking it. And he's like, I'm so happy. But I did make some pretty big life changes. Like, it's not like I took Ozempic and then didn't do any changes and then stopped taking it. Right. So I felt like that's like a good story. That's like, good. Here's somebody who used it in a really positive way.
That's the way it's supposed to be used.
Yeah.
Right? That's the way it's supposed to be used. And hopefully, you know, if someone uses it, that's how they should look at it, that it's not permanent. It's something that maybe look at it as a bridge, you know, while you're establishing healthy habits and a healthy exercise regimen, using it to bridge you, and then hopefully, you know, being able to get off it, because it does have side effects. You know, you touched on the fact that there are patients who, when they take a long term, there's like some catabolism of the muscle, so they sometimes lose muscle tone. There's also fat deposits, especially in the face. There are fat deposits that are resistant to normal weight loss, and they tend to be associated with youthfulness. So a lot of the people who take Ozempic, they lose these fat pockets that are otherwise very hard to lose, because the Ozempic, it's a very, very interesting scientific pathway, the way this thing works. So it targets fat cells in a way that nothing else has. So people lose weight and lose fat in compartments and areas that normally wouldn't. Yeah. And it makes them look older sometimes. So,
oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean, there have been multiple instances where someone will come up and say hello to me, and I don't recognize that, because it's such a dramatic weight loss of someone who's never been thin. Yeah. And it's kind of obvious. Well, obviously in that case, it's very obvious when somebody loses 50 pounds, you know, to 30 pounds, 40 pounds right away, you know, and you've known them for 10 plus years and they've never been able to lose the weight. But I've noticed a lot of gaunt faces, and I guess people are calling that Ozempic face. Yeah. And I mean, I guess there's a risk, and there are definitely side effects.
Yeah, and then there are, you know, it definitely affects the ability of the intestines and the stomach to work. So it's called motility. So there are issues with that. And so a lot of people have either diarrhea or they have stomach pains and things and it's actually an issue for surgery. So when we do surgery, we tell patients they have to stop these medications 2 weeks before surgery, because when you have surgery, you have general anesthesia, you have to have normal function of your bowels, your intestines. Otherwise, you can have other complications. So it's definitely, you know, it sounds like it's like just this amazing wonder drug, which it is, but you know, it's not perfect, and people should know that.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. Yeah, it's crazy.
You know what I think we should, you know, touch on, and maybe we talk a little bit about this, is the exercise, because I think
my favorite part.
Yeah, because one of the things you also said, and I was like, oh, that's such a great point. So, and I still hear this to this day. A lot of women are afraid of doing weights because they think they're gonna look too muscular, or they're gonna get too boxy. Yeah. And you know, I mean, you're an example of someone that does, you know, you do weights, but you're the opposite of boxy, you know? And
I mean, I think that has to do with like anatomy, right? Anyways, and like build some of that. And I do have like longer muscles, let's say, but when I put on weight. And I think there's like a lot of these fad workouts where it's like, use a 2-pound weight, and we want to build long, lean muscles. And I've been told by trainers, you can't build long, lean muscles. Like, you either have a long muscle or you don't. But by by doing resistance training, you're creating muscle and that's tightening everything up. And I mean, it 100% does. And I remember when I first started working out, I'm like, this is not going to work for me. I just remember thinking like, this isn't going to work for me. But seeing those before and after photos of those women who were like covered in cellulite or super overweight, and they did these plans, eating clean and lifting weights, and they were transformed. Their waists were small, their butts were lifted, the cellulite went away. I mean, I couldn't believe it. And then I experienced that myself. Like, I definitely lost the weight, right? So we lost 20 pounds, but the shape of my body kind of changed. Like everything tightened up. And then after that, maintaining it, I didn't lose any more weight. But if anything, maybe I gained it because muscle's heavy.
Yeah, muscle's heavier than fat. Yeah.
But my clothes, I went down a few sizes, but they fit differently. And so, you know, it was such a godsend for me.
Remember when you would show me these before and afters?
Yeah.
And I would tell you, there's no way a plastic surgeon could create that with liposuction.
I was gonna say that. You were like, I can't even do that. Like, I wish patients could just do the workout first and then come see me.
Because when I explain because a lot of people sometimes come to me and they want liposuction full body to try to lose as much weight as possible. And what I tell them is, I try to advise them, you know, and I try to say, listen, if you lose the weight slowly and you build muscle and lose the weight in a slow way, it's going to give you so many more benefits because you're going to be able to create these habits that you'll sustain, number one. And number two, it looks better because when you lose weight really rapidly, your skin, it doesn't have time to catch up. Skin is it's amazing, right? Skin is living tissue. It's dynamic. It changes. It adapts. If you gain weight, it stretches. If you lose weight, it shrinks. But not if you do it too fast. So these patients you were showing me, you know, they lost weight over time. They built the muscle. What they did is they gave their skin the time it needed to kind of contract and remodel and adapt to the new contours. If a surgeon tried to do that with liposuction, it wouldn't work because when you take out the fat that quickly, the skin has no time to catch up. So some of these patients, some of these people you would show me were like, it was incredible.
It was so incredible.
Yeah.
And it's just great. And I think I love feeling strong. And it would be really hard to build huge muscles. It'd be so hard. It's really hard.
Yeah.
So you're never going to look like that. And so I think a lot of women know now, and I say this, like, oh, I feel like everybody knows that. And they don't. And then, you know, I think there's a place for really light weights or just using your body.
Yeah.
Your body weight.
Weights, yeah.
But I think it kind of gets you there faster. And I always recommend people start out with a personal trainer because then for me, I learned how to do it right. And, you know, you don't want to hurt yourself because a lot of people go in the gym, they look around, see what other people are doing, try to copy them. And maybe it's the wrong form. Or I went to one of these classes with a girlfriend and it was circuit training, but they're encouraging you to race through it. I threw out my back and I ended up getting COVID. This is a couple of years ago. And I'm like, I'll never do that again because you shouldn't be racing through weights. And so if you have a trainer, I used to be so intimidated to go to the gym. But then once I had a trainer and I got really confident and I knew what I was doing, I didn't care who was looking at me. I was, you know, I could lift heavy and I was, you know, really confident and happy in the gym and I was safe. I wasn't going to hurt myself.
Yeah.
But I just can't. For anyone listening who wants to lift weights, I recommend starting with a trainer and then getting, you know, educated, and then you can do it yourself. You don't need to work with a trainer. It happens to be one of my favorite things to do, but I haven't worked out with a trainer in 4 years.
Yeah, that's right.
And I did for the first time last week, and I was so proud of myself. Yeah. But it's just such a great
And what's amazing is nowadays, right, because having a trainer is such a luxury.
Such a luxury.
But what's amazing is just even recently, there are so many apps now that use AI, and they're very affordable. And it's like a trainer for you personally. You put in your weight, your height, your goals.
Okay, I didn't even know about this.
This is incredible. So AI, I mean, you know, we all know AI is transforming everything.
Yeah.
But this is now at the fingertips of anyone.
Yeah, and you don't need a personal trainer. For example, I am going to start recording my workouts and sharing them. And I love seeing people on social media. And I think a lot of the people I follow, they do a cool montage. And that's great, but I'm I want to know what's the whole routine and how do you do it? So I did post a few videos and maybe they didn't look super cool, but I feel okay, great. I can save this and I'll know how to do this workout. Yeah. So I'm so happy to share. And then there are a couple of trainers that do that, Jen Glisson. I think it's Body by Jen at Body by Jen on Instagram. Yeah. She does so many incredible workouts. So many of them don't even use weights, or maybe it's dumbbells. And she'll even do videos at her house and her kids are running around and she's using a water bottle or a pot. She's done funny things like that. but it's the whole workout and it's free. You can just watch it.
Yeah.
But sometimes, like if it's in your budget, you know, for me, it was like paying the money. Because I wasn't going to follow the diet. I wasn't going to show up to the gym, but I paid a bunch of money. It's a commitment. So then I was forced to show up because I'm like, oh, my money was worth.
You talk about accountability a lot. You know, like it's great. A lot of these things are helpful when you have accountability because we're human and we have so many demands and we're pulled in so many different directions, which is another thing I wanted to mention is, you know, I think it's funny because you go on social media. As I'll be honest, as a guy, like I see some of these guys on social media who's like they got 6 packs and like we can share a funny story about your trainer, but they're like ripped, right? And I'm like, damn, you start feeling bad about yourself. I'm like, what am I doing? Like,
oh my God, of course. Don't even look at it sometimes.
Right.
I mean, I wish we weren't even on
guys,
Instagram.
and I'm like, how the heck do they look like that? That's crazy. But then I'm like, okay, remember, John, this is all they're doing. they're working out all day.
That's their life and their livelihood.
Right. This dad bod I got going on.
Aw, I love your dad bod. And it's not even a real dad bod.
Well, thank you. But I think
you look great, honey. I hope you know that.
Thank you, sweetheart.
With your 16-hour day work schedule.
Well, that's what I was going to say. What I hope that anyone listening to this or watching this appreciates is like we're like the real deal in the sense that like you're a busy mom with 2 kids, you're running around driving you're not like people sometimes I think, you know, sometimes, you know, maybe a life looks more glamorous than it is.
Oh my God, 100%. Mom, this is to you specifically. I don't sit at home. I'm constantly in my car. And when I'm not, I'm like behind my computer, typing furiously, trying to run a business and then, you know, coordinate our lives and our children's lives. And then it's like my second shift starts when the kids get home from wherever they're at.
Yeah. So I see it firsthand that you know, that's why I know what you're saying is such valuable information because it's the real deal. I mean, you're a busy mom. You don't have a lot of time. You don't have this luxury of time because you're running around all over the place doing all these different things. So I hope that, you know, anyone out there, whether they're woman or man, understand that like these little changes that you're talking about with like the diet and the exercise, it actually works really powerfully.
And what I love about our podcast is that if you listen to the whole thing, then you will get takeaways.
Yeah.
So John, for somebody who feels like, oh, I can't do this, I've tried before, it doesn't work for me. Like what are 3 small steps they can take right now that would make a difference to get them started on the right path?
So I'll share my personal opinion and then I'd love to hear yours. But for me, you know, again, I can only speak to my experience and these little changes that I made back then are so powerful that I still apply to my life today. So I would say, you know, just looking at your food and try to, I mean, and I can get into it, but maybe we do this in a future podcast of how to recognize the fat content in your food. And just try to make small changes to cut that down a little bit, just a little bit. It's going to make a big difference. That's one thing.
Okay.
The other thing that I applied and you know, it's very powerful is and we talk about this, even if you do 10 minutes of exercise a day, it's better than 0 minutes.
Yeah.
10 is better than 0. So whatever you can do, even if you can squeeze in a little workout, even if it's, you know, whatever it is, it's going to be helpful. So that I would say that's
10 minutes though is powerful because if you tell yourself 10 minutes and you do 10 minutes, often you'll do longer.
That's
right?
true.
If you just start.
That's true. And then, you know, back to what we were saying earlier, it's also about changing your preferences and your tastes. So, you know, you were saying how like there's certain foods that you just don't really care for anymore. Just you like other things better that are healthier because you've liked it now. Well, it's the same way with exercise. Like once you do it all the time consistently, you actually really enjoy it. Like I remember, I told you this story. So when I was, you know, a fried yuca ball.
Oh my gosh.
I wanted to lose weight. And I actually went to, this is back in the day when you had to go to a library, there was no Google. And I told you, and I looked up books about exercise. And I thought to myself, what is the one exercise that is going to burn the most calories in the shortest amount of time? And it turned out it was swimming and running. Well, I didn't have access to a pool, but I could run around the block. So that's what I started doing. So, you know, any exercise, you're going to burn calories and you're going to help that equation that I referred to earlier, you know, what goes in must come out. You're going to start increasing what you put out and burning what you put out. So that's going to be helpful. I think the third thing is it's mental too. There's so much that's mental.
I couldn't agree more.
And so this is a lesson that I learned because of my career. I've shared this sometimes with patients when I'm trying to give advice or mentoring like a student, I always say surgery, everything I learned from surgery. When you try to become a surgeon, it's a 5-year, 6-year training program. And the first couple of months when you're a surgery resident, they don't even let you put a suture in. You're just like holding an instrument, right? And then little by little, they let you do a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more. And then, then you're putting a suture. Then you're actually, forget about holding a scalpel. They don't give you a scalpel for, I don't know how long, but that makes sense.
Thank God.
Right. Right. How crazy would that be? But guess what? By the time you finish your training, because you did everything in such small increments and you gain the confidence and you gain the skills, each skill builds upon the other. By the time you graduate, you're like, yeah, I can do a surgery by myself, right? But there's no way you could have gotten to that point in 1 month. It's not possible. So treat your health, your diet, and your exercise in the same way. You cannot do it in 1 month. You cannot do it in 2. It's probably one of the most important things.
It's a lifestyle.
It's a lifestyle.
It's not a diet.
And so don't rush it. So the 3 things would be just try to cut down the fat content, try to squeeze in whatever exercise you can, and don't rush it. Take your time. Really, it takes time.
That's great. Those are 3 great things.
Yeah.
Okay, so now my 3 things would be, so as a busy mom who wants to look her best and run a successful business, have a great marriage, to do all the things, right? I think, obviously eating as clean as I can, and you will find blog posts. We will do another one about exactly what that means. But basically, lean protein, so chicken, ground turkey, fish, and then vegetables, green vegetables, fruits, and then whole grains, brown rice, quinoa are 2 really easy ones. And, really trying to stick to that, but also being prepared. So, I don't look at foods that have high food content because I prepare my own food. So trying to prepare it. And yeah, it's great if you can get organic, but what if you can't? Okay, who cares? So then if you're prepared, it's cheaper, right? If you're doing it yourself, and just trying to meal prep a little bit. Or for me, having frozen brown rice, plain brown rice in my freezer is a godsend. And then making some turkey patties or having some chicken breast just ready to go, because I don't even have to think about it. Then it's just, it's ready to go. And then I won't eat junk, because I will eat junk if I don't have my food prepared.
Right. Yeah.
So, eating clean, trying to prepare your food, have it ready to go. And then moving, any kind of movement, and even 10 minutes. And so, I talked about, I get to work out with a personal trainer for the first time in 4 years.
Yeah.
So I don't usually have an hour. I usually have 10 minutes or 20 minutes or 15 minutes, but it doesn't matter. I have a bike in my room, and I get on the bike and I answer emails. I have dumbbells in my room. So I do some squats or some lunges.
You're very good about that.
But even if you have none of those things, you can walk around the block, like you said. You can work up to a jog. You can work to running. But getting some kind of movement, and it'll help you feel better. It'll help you look better. So really trying to eat clean foods, whole foods, being a little bit prepared. You don't have to be like super meal prepped with all the boxes that you see on social media. But just, knowing what you're going to eat the next day, and maybe bringing your lunch with you. Having snacks is always really important. And then getting some movement in, even if it's 10 minutes, it's so important. You have to move.
You're really good about that, and I can testify to this because, sometimes on the weekends, like, I'm downstairs with the girls and we're going out or something, and, you'll, if there's any downtime, sometimes like you'll be like, I'm going to do 5 minutes, 10 minutes, like literally you're good about that. That's really good. I admire that.
Well, it all adds up. So even if you do 10 minutes on the bike while you're answering emails,
that's right.
It's helpful.
I've seen you on the bike and you're like trying to type on the phone.
Yeah. And then, or like I'm playing with the kids outside and I'm doing lunges.
That's true. That's true.
Or I'll push the swing and do a squat.
That's true. I see you doing the leg raises and stuff like that. Yeah, I should do that for my buttocks.
Oh, yeah, you should. But doing what you can, and then, don't compare yourself. Oh my God, do not look at social media. It is not real.
Yeah, exactly. That's
unless it's something that makes you feel good. If it's something that makes you feel bad, don't even follow that person. But if it's something that's encouraging, you got this, and like it shows you how to do something, then yes, follow that person.
That's right. Good. Hey, listen, this is, I think, great advice. I know how much it's worked for me. I know how well it's worked for you.
It changed my life. Yeah. I mean, it's so powerful, and I'm so passionate about it. Like, if you have a question, email me, DM me. I'm happy to answer you. And it's not like I'm perfect and I've figured it all out, but I feel like I'm in a place where it's a very healthy place.
You're very healthy.
And when I hear people complain or criticize themselves, I'm like, you don't have to feel that way.
Yeah.
If I can do it, anybody can do it.
No, and I'm so happy that you're sharing this, because I think, let's be honest, it's very difficult for women, you know, and I'm a plastic surgeon.
Especially in LA.
Especially in LA.
Well, I guess anywhere now that there's social media.
And we have 2 daughters.
Yes.
And I think about this all the time. And because of what I do, I hear
Building
it all the
a
time.
healthy body
And
image.
yeah, absolutely.
It's very important to me.
you're
And we've talked a lot about that for our kids. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's you've said how important it is for us to show our girls a good example. You're a great example to them.
Thank
and
you.
They already, I think our daughters show great habits already, and I think it's because of you.
Thank you very much.
So
And yeah, it's not about deprivation, right? It's like moderation.
that's right.
And trying to find your balance.
Great. Well, I think I love this. I can continue talking about
I
this
could talk about this forever.
and I can nerd out about it too, if maybe another future podcast.
Okay, well, that's hard. Sometimes it's hard for us to follow your doctor speak.
Right. But we don't want to bore everyone, but it's been now a little while. I think it's been great. I hope all of you gain something from
Me
this.
too. I hope you take this stuff away, or if it motivates you or gives you hope. And like I said, like this is a community, so
Yeah.
people can reach out to us.
Yeah.
info@honormd.com. You can write to us if you have any questions and DM us.
Yeah, absolutely.
At honormd. Mine is Ursula T. Diaz, Dr. Don Diaz. And I love this stuff. So I'm happy to talk about skincare, beauty, eating clean, weight training.
Great. Well, thank you everyone out there listening. Hope you enjoyed this, and we look forward to seeing you next time.
Bye.